You've reached the Union of Metro Street podcast, where we discuss the San Diego music scene of the late 80s and all of the 90s, from the shows we worked to the shows we played. Here we go.
All right, so that was Agent 51, and we got Chris here. Chris, you want to introduce yourself? And hi.
Thanks for having me.
What's
Poway,
up,
California is here.
So that's Red Alert from Agent 51. What year did you guys do that song?
That was recorded December 96.
96. Holy crap.
All live on the floor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we had no click tracks. We didn't know what we were doing. No pre-production. You can hear the mistakes, man. I mean, it's kind of charming in a way.
Oh, yeah.
At the same
time, it makes
time,
it more real.
As someone who's grown and like learned more about being in the studio, you hear all the mistakes and you're like, damn it, I want to record.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's authentic. It's like real, you know. It's like I'd rather hear a mistake that's real,
Right.
rather than something that's just perfect and
Right.
rehearsed. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's more DIY. I mean, that's the thing that when I grew up listening to a live album to Rush or even like Ozzy.
Yeah.
And then you hear the little like clicks and all the little quirks. I mean, you're totally geeking out and you're probably super high in your closet listening to it,
Yeah.
or maybe not. But no, I appreciate that. And so when did you guys form Agent 51? What year?
This would have been probably December 95.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just kind of, learning chords, and finding people that were into punk rock and into other bands. And like, I'd heard the first Pinhead Gunpowder EP.
Right.
I was like, man, that's a cool sound. And then, Rancid, obviously.
Yeah.
And I just started hearing music in my dreams. And I was like, well, how do I transcribe these sounds that I'm chasing in my head?
Right.
And, my childhood days, I was raised on country music. I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
But I was too full of piss and vinegar to really know, to bring that out in my music.
Right.
So yeah, it's like I was just chasing these sounds in my head and trying to put it together to make music, basically. And we started out as a 3-piece. Eric Davis on drums, who is now the guitar player. Jared Herndon on bass. And we got together in a crappy room like every other band does, with a mattress on the wall to cover the sound.
Yeah.
And a few beers, and just start anywhere was kind of the... Start anywhere.
Had you played any instruments before that, or when did this all start? Like the idea to pick up any instrument?
Soma, probably, because I was standing there in the crowd, and I thought arrogantly, I'm like, well, I can do that. Of course, you don't realize that there's all these hurdles. Like, well, you got to learn an instrument, and then you have to write your own stuff, and then you have to be able to play that in front of people. I remember being on stage some of our first shows. You were there. I was terrified. I was mortified, man. It was like jumping into like a pool full of pins and needles.
Well, that's the whole thing. So since you brought it up, let's dive into that. Like, I don't remember. I mean, if I looked at my books, I could probably reminisce, but how did you approach me with the tape? Did Eric approach me? How did it all start? How did we get that ball rolling? Because, for me to find anyone and start booking them, it comes from some sort of a recognition. And then, do you remember how we even got started and I got you on your first show? Or
yeah, I saved up and bought a 4-track, and we just hung mics in the room.
Yeah.
And bounced down as many tracks as we could. I think we gave you like a 6-song demo.
Okay.
That was the same demo that I gave Billy Joe when Green Day played Soma. And we just saved up our money and, made a demo. I believe that's what I gave you. And I think you heard something there where you're like, I could probably book these guys with UK subs or maybe the US bombs.
Did that?
Something like
my
that.
way of thinking.
Was that Red Alert song on that demo?
No, that wasn't written until a lot later.
Because I know that was like
That was the flagship tune, yeah.
Yeah. And just so that the audience knows, we got Mike Spen also sitting in here, and he's just hanging with us right now. So if you hear the extra, but again, this is even more history.
Sure.
With Mike. But diving back into that, we'll dive into Green Day and all that. But do you remember the first show that you had played? That with all the butterflies and everything, all the nervousness.
Yeah, it was Soma Side Stage, Linda Vista.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all about, we got to impress Jeremy, like he's the center hub of the wheel here, man, of the integrity, like he's the defining, metric of what punk rock is, and we were trying to get that approval.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying on multiple levels, but for whatever reason, I felt drawn toward, getting up there and seeing what could happen.
Right.
And I think we drew maybe 15 people that night, maybe.
Did you guys wear the suits the first
No.
time? No? So that came later, too?
That came later, yeah. I wore I think I wore like a white shirt and tie. I was trying to look like Angus. I think you got a kick out of that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I was trying to alleviate some of the nerves with like humor.
Yeah.
Were you wearing black shorts as well?
I think so. If I remember correctly.
Yeah. And it's funny that you would get that from me, because I kind of did. I was always looking for, by that point, definitely looking for something different.
Yeah.
Other than the cookie cutters.
Right.
And then, so are you guys, I don't remember, are you out of Poway or?
Poway, California, yeah.
Everybody's out of Poway?
Yeah. Blink, Unwritten Law. There's a few others, but those are the main kind of punk ones.
Yeah.
Unwritten Law, my first punk band, Open Fast.
That's right. Okay.
Unwritten Law secured
now we get into the roots.
Yes, our first Soma show. They threw us on the main stage with Korn, of all bands, because there was no other opener, I guess. It was Korn, Sam Black Church, and Clutch headlining, 1994.
And yes.
And we got really drunk.
Because I needed a band to fit that. And that was one that Len was putting together. And I remember that because Sam Black Church, that was a crazy show. It wasn't very big, but it was like straight out of the oven, right onto an open fire.
Absolutely.
It's an intimidating stage, especially.
Yeah.
Was that Metro or Union?
That was Metro.
Okay, so like right when Metro opened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, here you go. No side stage. Go on the main stage in front of everybody and a bunch of metal fans who probably don't want to see you.
Yeah, it was a bit more metal, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed with Sam Blackchurch, but that was one of those bands like with Neurosis, Jerry. I had no idea who the fuck they were, and I didn't get the demo because, Len got them through whatever booking agent. So it was one of those, well, you got to do research on this, and, I didn't have a computer or anything, so I had to ask around, and I'm like, all right, well, we got to throw a local.
That sounds like it was a packaged deal.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely.
Same booking agent or something.
Yeah, it was one of those Hail Marys, let's not make this completely dive into the toilet, sort of things. So, it's no worries. I mean, it's only your
opening band that's never played on the main stage before.
But there must have been some reason why I would have taken that chance.
My understanding is it was Rob Brewer from Unwritten Law who vouched for us.
Okay, well then,
hey, these guys are cool. Put them on; they'll play. And
that's crazy because you didn't get the 100 people in. You just guys went right to the main stage.
Exactly.
Who else? Who else has done that? I don't think anybody else has.
Again, I would have to look at things. This is really rattling the memory, but yeah, that's definitely one of the different everything about that show. But when by that point, Unwritten Law had been working with me for so many years. Blink was just starting to get their feet on the ground, because by that point, I believe that would probably be later 94. Like, would that be November in 94 for that show? So I think Blink had already pulled a good number and started their trajectory, but Unwritten Law had already been established. So especially to come from Rob, that was like, all right, well, I'm gonna not carry all the weight. I'll throw some of it on Rob.
Yeah.
But how did that show go? Because now that I kind of barely remembered, I want to know the details.
Yeah, I think we each drank about 40 Mickeys each.
Yeah.
We messed up a couple times on stage. I do remember Jonathan Davis, the singer of Korn. I remember him pulling out the bagpipes and puking off to the side of the stage. We played a song called I Hate Hippies, I think by Screeching Weasel. And we had a hippie dummy. We threw it in the crowd, expecting the crowd to like rip it apart because they're metalheads, man. They hate hippies. Yeah. And the crowd just parted, and the dummy just went right to the floor. It's like, okay.
That was the first death at Metro. Yeah. Oh my God, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I heard somebody like died at the show too. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, wow.
No.
Yeah, somebody died of it.
Yeah, that's not true.
It wasn't that show.
It was a POD show that happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
I remember that.
Yeah, it's like a game of telephone. Just goes around until the story changes.
Yeah,
the rumor mill.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
We only had one death at Metro.
Yeah, just the one.
Just the one.
One death at Metro. And the guy had like a heart attack or something. He shouldn't have been in the pit. And
it was a medication type thing. So, yeah, because Sammy brings it up in the Sammy podcast.
Oh, yeah, when we were talking with Sammy, he brought it up.
Yeah, because he witnessed the whole thing. So, yeah.
I barely even remember it.
I don't remember it. I mean, I know a person got stabbed with an ice pick one time.
Jeez.
But they didn't die.
Yeah. I had to pull someone off of the roof, and I wasn't able to do it, so Mike Nevison had to climb up there. I think he hurt himself climbing up rather than falling down. Do you remember that story at all?
I kind of remember it.
The guy was claiming some shit about Nam, and that just fired me up. Fuck Nam. And God knows me at that point. But this is completely digressed away from throwing the...
Since we're talking death and injury, there was a Lagwagon show where a guy, I think he got up on one of the side fills and climbed up and was on the beam and fell and hit his head.
Oh, Lord.
And he shit his pants. So
naturally,
he basically almost died. So
I was probably at that show because I remember people climbing on the PA on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, some of the sound crews started getting more creative and I think it was Industrial that started stacking them like 3 high, and
Yeah.
I mean, started bringing in an impressive system, which sucked because that means I was there later.
More stuff to put out.
Yeah, and so, I mean, at that point was in the later years, which is, I'm digressing again, but in the later years, I would end up going to get a 12-pack and then coming back and watching the sound guys as they slowly load out. So there was nights I wouldn't get home till after 4 a.m. and then have to go back. But so the show when you guys had played the main stage, and so Jonathan's puking off the side stage. You're throwing a dummy out there that dies, and no one cares. What impression did that leave you? Did it be like, oh my God, this is where we want to play forever? I want to be in music, or I mean, what's
the impression that I got that stayed with me was like nothing's ever going to go the way you think it is.
Right.
It's like you could rehearse for 2 weeks for a show and like someone's going to break a string, someone's going to be out of tune, something's going to happen that's unexpected.
Right.
And I just remember the relief when it was done. Like, okay, I did it. I faced the beast. I can go get drunk now.
Yeah.
But you learn through reference experience, right? The next time you go on stage, it's a little easier, and then it gets a little easier and a little easier. I still get crazy nervous, even performing for like just a few people.
Yeah.
But back to your question, like, I just remember thinking so relieved to what a rush it was to play for all those people.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're hearing like your band sound for the first time being projected through this massive hall. Before it's these shitty little amps, feeding back and coming at you in your own little living room. And now you're playing this massive hall and you can hear your vocals coming through the monitor.
Yeah.
You can hear your guitars going all the way to the back of the club and back at you. It's like you're the voice of God for about 20 minutes.
Right.
And that was a real rush. That was cool. That's like one of those intoxicating deals where you're like, okay, I want to do that again, but I want to do it better.
Right.
Yeah.
So what other places did you play before you ended up playing there with Open Fast?
We played Dream Street.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first gig I ever played. Somebody spit whiskey on me. I didn't even realize it at the time.
Until someone lit it on fire.
I had my eyes closed trying to remember the lyrics. That was the first gig I ever played. From there, we played a bunch of no-name venues like Pelican Pub, some places in Ocean. Anyone that would.
Did you play Soul Kitchen and that whole? Yeah. You play for Showcase, or was Showcase
World Beat,
or was it still World Beat at that point?
No,
you were young at that point, right?
Yeah, we didn't play World Beat. We did play. Where did we play? I'm trying to remember where we played. Played a bunch of high schools.
Yeah.
This is pre-Agent 51 days.
Right.
Anybody,
you were still a teenager at this point?
Yeah, I was still 18.
Okay.
17, 18. I was trying to figure out my voice, like how to even write lyrics.
Right.
I'm
still doing that and I'm 54.
Yeah. I don't think it ever ends.
Yeah.
You write a song and you're like, why isn't this connecting? You know? And it's probably because it's not about something that I care enough about.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so did it, like, from playing the main stage, did you start to realize kind of a direction, or were you just like, whew, got through that and now, like, what was the progression? Like, what's the mind frame? I want to know the mind frame.
Mind frame was like, all right, I'm learning the guitar. I could probably write some of my own songs now because I was just the singer in Open Fast. And that band split up because half the band was like, we're not punk enough, so we're going to go in this direction and be even more punk. And the other band was like, we're just going to write songs and see what happens. So that's when I started Area 51 and started chasing these sounds in my head, thinking, all right, well, like, let's see if I can do this. And then we started recording, and that's basically the progression.
Right.
Just dictating these dreams down onto paper, if that makes any sense. And that's an odd way to write.
Does for me, yeah.
A lot of people were like, hey, I'm going to sit down and write a song today. And I was like dreaming all these melodies,
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Well, that goes to the common tie about skateboarding, because it's funny that you bring that up. At 54, I still think of myself on that ramp going, okay, if I hit this one line, go up and do the stall, because, I'm limited at being 54 riding a freaking skateboard. Yeah. Jesus. But it's the same way. I will go through and I find it like a comfort when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, I can sleep for another hour. Then I think of a line that I can do, or now I'm even starting to get back into thinking of a song. And so I'm like basically starting from scratch and trying to construct it to make myself go to sleep. But I wake up still thinking about it, and that'll still carry throughout the day, So I'm like going, okay, if I do that, and then, if I drop down to A on that part, or if I stall long enough, that would be good for a photo. And it's these little things that just kind of keep you creative.
Sure.
So you don't start just going rat shit crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So with that idea in mind, is that kind of how you would construct songs, and then you just start writing them down, and then you're like, okay, I got this? Or when did you get the confidence? This is one thing I never really get from people, is like when you got the confidence to write music.
I still don't have the confidence, like I still don't fully have the confidence. Like, you write songs, you put them out there, you see what happens.
Right.
Like you get hopefully better at it as time goes by.
Right.
For me, it was like, okay, I would hear this melody in my head, hear the chord progression, I'd get a little bit down, and then like you, wake up the next day, walk around, take a shower, like, okay, here's the next part of the song. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're Frankensteining, piecemealing all these ideas together in the
right.
And maybe you'll steal a little bit of this melody from this song over here, speed it up, fit it into this puzzle piece over here.
Right.
And then next thing you know, you have a song that's hopefully somewhat authentic.
And then you have to convince everyone else that it's worth trying to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I think a lot of it depends on your intention as a songwriter too. It's like, what are your goals, right?
Right.
Do you want to get signed to a major label? Do you want to be on TV? Or do you just want to express yourself?
Right.
Now I find when I start from that point of just, okay, I'm going to express myself here and then see what happens. Like, better things tend to happen.
So what was the next? So you're starting to, create, and you're starting to actually, figure things out. When did it start to come to fruition? When did you start Agent 51, and how did that progression go? After Area 51, because I remember Area 51.
Yeah.
And was there a demo tape with that band?
Yeah, we recorded it at Double Time Studios, El Cajon.
Okay, with Jeff.
With Jeff.
Yeah.
Me, Eric, and Jared. Eric on drums, Jared on bass. Jared left, joined the Army. So Eric moved to guitar. We got Rob Hunter as a drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg Schneider as a bass player.
Okay.
And now we're a 4-piece. And so that's when the real production value kind of started to come into place. And I just had more songs than I could possibly get down in an album. I have probably 20 cassette tapes full of just like bits and pieces of ideas from those days of recording into a 4-track, these songs that would wake me up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the night and be like, okay, like, because if you don't put it down, you're going to forget it. By the time you wake up, that idea is gone.
Right.
So possibly everything that I could get down, I got down on cassette. And so I haven't bounced any of those down to digital. I'd be curious to see like what's on all those.
Yes. Yeah. But that was just a way of keeping momentum, or were you just, when was the point when you knew that, this is what I'm going to do?
I was young enough and I thought, well, I have at least my 20s to just go at this full stop adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
Just play anywhere we can. So I started writing like a madman. I worked a part-time job when I wasn't working. I was writing or practicing or booking gigs.
Yeah.
I was kind of like wearing all the hats, doing all the artwork, the flyers, everything, just old school.
Yeah.
Like we're going to design a flyer. We're going to go paste it up all over town, all over the high schools. And 15 people became 30, 30 became 100. I think we maxed out somewhere around 350, 400, something like that.
Okay. Wow.
And then it became, all right, well, we can have a local draw. How do we get signed to a label? how do we get a van so we can tour? Right.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
So you opened up with Agent 51. So when did, I would have to look through my old books. What was the next gig that really kind of like basically launched you into the next level? Because the bands that you played with and the legacy that you have is pretty expansive. And we're going to get into the touring and all that stuff and all the bands you tour with because there's some chaos.
Yeah, for sure.
When did it go to the next level?
Well, we started playing side stage shows, U.S. Bombs, UK Subs, whoever you'd book us with. Maybe we can turn this 15 people into 30 people, giving out demo tapes, sending out demo tapes. The feedback we'd always get was like, well, the production's not quite there. You guys are good, catchy, but the production's not quite there. And at the time, I'm like, what do you mean? These songs are bad, It's like your little baby. You wrote the song. It's your baby. You're proud of it.
And then you send it to the wolves, and then they chop it up.
And they eat it and shit it out off a cliff.
But they're still taking it, and they're
still taking
You're playing on the good gigs. And
Yeah, I think the gig that changed everything, where like you felt the momentum shift, was there was a Lagwagon show that we played with the Vandals, main stage show. I think that was our first main stage show we ever got. We made this huge, like 6-foot flyer for it and pasted that up all over town. And I think that got us a lot wider exposure than we would have normally got playing side stage. We were now playing to like 1,000 people. Right. So that's when I think the word began to spread. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we got to tighten up now. We got to go record a real record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what year was that?
I think Red Alert came out mid 97.
Okay.
So we started in 95 and worked our way up toward that. I think the demo was recorded in 96. So year progression between each phase.
Do you remember that show, Jerry?
I think I do.
So that would be probably when did you?
That's when I probably started. I was probably booking you guys actually at that point, 97.
Yeah.
Because I ended up, I left by 97.
Yeah, you left in 97.
So, that was the inaugural, here's a bag of shit. Sorry, Jerry, I'm out. I don't have a choice. We were talking about that last night with the Calvins. When I left, I just kind of, I didn't really have a choice, but I just kind of dumped everything on them and like, here, good luck. I got to go. I don't really have a choice. But so 97, at that point, Blink was already doing pretty damn well. Unwritten Law, Sprung, Buck 09, all your usual players.
All those guys were actually touring at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were touring worldwide, actually, at that point. UL, Blink, and Buck 09.
Damn, see, I didn't even have any idea. I was just stuck at Soma. I had no idea. So when what band ended up picking it up and dragging you guys? Because I know you've done a bit of stuff on the road.
Yeah. We were big fans of Youth Brigade, so we got a main stage show with Youth Brigade.
I remember.
That I booked you on.
Yeah. And Swingin' Utters, I think, played that show.
Yep.
And through that, we said, hey, we'll play for $50, $100 a show if you guys can put us on a few shows.
Okay.
So we toured Vegas and Phoenix, and I think we did an LA show with them.
With Youth Brigade?
And that was our first kind of like, okay, here's how it's done kind of deal.
Did you have a management or?
We had Rob Perlman, who was
Alphabet Records,
who was our manager. I guess you call him a manager. He's booking the shows.
Sure.
But I don't think he was really taking a piece of the money or anything like that. He lent us $2,000 to record the full length and said, pay me back whenever.
Okay.
So, without him, we would have never recorded that record.
So we had to obviously do a shout out to Rob for that.
Yeah.
See, I had no idea that, which comes to not fruition, but it comes full circle is when we went to the show that Rob did at the Casbah with you guys in Swindle and the Classified. So that was kind of, Did Rob have all those bands under him, or was that what he was doing?
Jared's nodding his
I don't
head.
even remember.
I believe all those bands were under him. Yes.
Yeah.
Because at one point, obviously, Swindle was one of my bands. It was, the ones I was trying to bring up. There's like, you remind me of my English sound. And back then they had, who is it? Dan, the English kid that was singing. Mm-hmm. So we had the accent.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Rob just kind of, because Rob was at the club all the time, and he just kind of was a scenester, would you call him, or?
Hey, he was just a kid that was pretty smart, actually, thinking ahead. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm going to create a business in my youth. He was like 16, right?
That's what I'm thinking. He was really young.
Yeah, you got to give him credit for being that forward thinking, because I had no business sense whatsoever.
Where did he get the money?
That's another question, too.
Right.
Who knows? I mean,
I thought he came from money with the family, as a lot of people come from a bag of money, and they just kind of, some of them use it right, and some of them, some of them pretended to be crusty kids and lived on the street. Remember that whole movement of the crusty kids?
Oh, yeah.
But you come to find out that when they go home, they're going home to La Jolla, and they're, washing their clothes and then coming back out, and their clothes still stink. But, and they didn't want to pay for shows, and,
Yeah, they were all rich. Actually, that's true. Now that I think about that.
There was a huge movement. Yeah.
We're all rich kids.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Just acting like they were
I don't know. I looked at their clothes and said, I'm fucking poor, and I'm working at... I was talking with Mike about it, and I never made any money off land. I went home sometimes broke. I had to pay out of my pocket to have people clean up the lot.
Wow.
I didn't care. It was for the scene.
Right.
But I do. I remember. I think Rob had something to do with stickers or shirts or something, and I probably still owe him like $50 from that because I didn't have the fucking money. But he just kind of showed up, and he had the wherewithal to know that this was something that he wanted to do, because there was also, remember, Jeff from Yellow Records did the Lump of Coal. But Rob, went to a different level. So coming full circle, when you started picking up these more gigs and stuff, was Rob doing all the paperwork with that and doing all the management, or were you handling some of that as well?
I think it was a double duty kind of thing. The cool thing about having Rob there was when the gig's over, you can send Rob in to go collect the money. You don't have as a band, go like begging to get paid.
Yeah.
Right. So that was cool. Plus, he knew people, venues up the coast like Glass House Pomona, Showcase Corona, all these different venues that we could get booked at. We didn't know how to book ourselves.
Right.
We just cold call somebody. They'd say, well, how many people do you draw? 30. Well, wait till it becomes 100. Right.
Yeah.
So Rob would, hey, I'm the manager of this band, like it'd give us a little more clout, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for me, too, when I call up people. I'm the manager of this band.
Right.
We know who you are. You're not the manager of the band.
But wasn't Rob like, hi, I'm the manager. Whose child are you? Who are you talking to here? Manager? How do you manage a band? You're like 15.
Yeah. But he understood publishing. He understood how to get a CD made and printed. And here's how you do it. We didn't know how to do that.
Right.
No, he blew me away. It's just seeing this kid, start his record label and get these bands and start making, and he was giving out records and stuff. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. He knew how to get all the stuff printed, and like he was instrumental, because if he was not there doing that, we would have had to learn it ourselves, and it would have probably delayed whatever the next step was going to be.
Right. So who put out the Red Alert, and was it the 7-inch that you did, or?
Alphabet put out the CD.
Okay.
Yeah, this would have been, I think, March 97. We did a CD release party. The CDs, unfortunately, didn't show up to the CD release party. So that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Rob and his ingenuity created vouchers for your CD.
Oh, that's the thing that reminds me, too. Rob used to make his own backstage passes.
Yeah.
for like all shows all over the, he'd go to LA and he had like a backstage pass that he made.
Yeah, he had a trunk full of different colored paper wristbands. Like, they're doing Orange tonight. I'll just go back to my car, get an orange wristband.
I think he got those from me, actually.
Did he?
when Shit, man.
So those are all Golden Voice wristbands?
Yeah.
Helps to know people.
I had like boxes of wristbands in the office at Soma.
Yeah.
When they closed it down. So I think I gave those to Rob. So.
Oh, that's funny. Did you give me a Megadeth pass so that I could be at the club while Megadeth played?
No, you got that from Megadeth. What are you talking about?
That's one of my, it's on the fridge because it's so funny. I had to wear a pass at the only club. I already talked about it before, but it's ridiculous. But yeah, the wristband thing, back before the wristbands, we were doing a stamp. So we would change up the stamp every now and again. And I think we had one that said Soma, and then we had a hand. So we would try to switch it up every, once a week. I
think there was a time you wrote your initial on somebody's hand with a Sharpie or something.
Oh, yeah, probably. Well, more than once. Yeah. I know on passes I had to do, and that's when I came up with that crazy scribble, which I still use as my signature to this day, just because I did it so much, passes for everyone on their little tickets. That's hilarious. Oh, God. But yeah, the stamps, people would end up going and they would find wherever we got the stamps from, which is probably at Seaport Village. So they would do it themselves. And no one really looked at them hard enough anyways, It's like, whatever. Go in. You got an ink splotch on your hand.
Yeah.
That's insane. So coming back to Rob, booking it, and then did he participate? Would he go to shows with you guys? Would he, always be there as another member, or how much participation was he?
Yeah, he was kind of our biggest cheerleader. He would hand out the flyers to the next show. Come see the next show or other bands he was promoting through Alphabet. So it's good to have someone out there doing all that work for you. Really.
Yeah.
And you guys got a show in LA this week.
Yeah.
So here we go. Oh, here's how you get a van. And
oh, really? So he did all the dirty work for you guys.
He did not buy the van, but he was a good guy that would help negotiate the price down.
Right.
Well, there's a scratch on this fender here.
Yeah.
This was recalled in the early 90s.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I had no idea. These are all the details I need to know.
Yeah.
Because you need someone that's going to do all that stuff, especially when you're, in a band, you're not making any money. Were you guys making any money? That's a big question.
We were probably making maybe $50 a show up until the Lagwagon show. I think we got maybe 300 for that.
Okay.
Nice.
And then Kane started stepping in, trying to book stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's when we closed down. That's when Kane's
right. Yeah.
came in.
And I think we got it up to 350 or something like that after that. And it would all be based on who said your name at the door.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Kane's goes, how do you know who said what at the door? They could say, well, 350 people said your name when it could have been 500.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're a bit more loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were always honest on that. We weren't going to take numbers away from any bands. We always marked it down as they called it. So
yeah, I believe that.
I hope so.
Where we were doing the number thing, whereas LA was doing pay to play.
Yeah.
And then when the new Soma opened up, as I've said in the past, that became kind of pay to play because all the bands were already used to it at that point, and they're like, "Hey, can we just get 20 tickets, 100 tickets? We'll sell them, whatever." So that's what they wanted to do when we opened the new one.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I always called San Diego the bastard child of LA, because we did things a little bit different, but you had to be popular in LA before you came to San Diego, before you would get that credibility. Do you guys run into that problem at all playing up in LA where it was like, oh, you're from freaking San Diego? Because we've always kind of had that stigma, We never ran into any problems other than just the song would end and you just hear the hum of the lights and the hum of the amplifiers. That was our problem because no one knew who we were. Yeah. I mean, not until, Youth Brigade took us out there. And then
What'd you guys play in L.A.?
We played Showcase Corona and
the Glass House. What was
played Pomona Glass House with them. Yeah. So that was like, okay, here's some exposure to like a few hundred people.
Yeah.
You know, but if we book maybe Joe's Bar in Inglewood or whatever, and there's nobody there because nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, I know that. We played a country bar with Sin 77, Sawdust on the floor. And I was told that my bass playing was reminded some drunk hit guy that reminded him of, what's his face, from Led Zeppelin. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at him going, I don't know if I should frickin' hit you or compliment you for saying something so stupid. I just was like so offended, but I was just stoked to play somewhere different, you know? It was a tough circuit when we were trying to push Sin 77, and I didn't even push things too far, you know? But so you're on with Youth Brigade. What year was that? Is that still 97 or is that getting into 98?
It's getting into 98, 99.
Okay. And where did you guys go with them?
We were trying to get signed to BYO, their label.
Okay.
And we got the same advice back. We recorded our next album, Just Keep Running, on our own, 20 songs, something like that. And they were like, you guys just haven't done enough touring yet. You got to sell 10,000 records, then we'll talk. And Fat Records said the same thing. Epitaph said the same thing. Nitro didn't even respond, you know?
Wow.
And, but that's the price you pay for being in the arena. You know, you're going to get rejected. So we just sent out records to everyone, and we were trying to get signed to BYO because we had a relationship with the band at that time.
Right.
But they were just being real. They couldn't spend money on a band that hadn't proven itself yet, touring wise. It's kind of catch-22 because it's like, well, how do you get the tour support to go on a tour to get known unless another band takes you out?
But at this time, we're talking 98. It's not like a band's going to pick up someone and be like, yeah, we're going to cover your expenses and pull you along.
Right.
Because at that point, bands, you know, BYO, I can think of plenty of bands on their label that has not sold 10,000 to this day. You know, but at that point, there was a little bit because, so 98...
You know what? Like
our local stuff, Jerry, you know this better than I do.
Well, I was going to say what he was talking about with them not having enough people or selling records. You know what's crazy is like when I was with Papa Roach didn't tour everywhere. They just did California, and they got signed to a major, and boom, blew up. So I don't know. It just depends on who's looking at you. I believe because even I think it was Warner Brothers did their demo, and the guy that did it got fired, and they dropped it, and then it went to DreamWorks, and then DreamWorks was like, no, we like this, and they sent them in the studio, and boom,
wow,
3 million records right off that Infest album.
Wow, so, that's crazy.
You were in that band?
No, I was their first tour manager for them.
I remember that.
Yeah,
when they started out.
They would play side stage, right?
I booked them twice at Metro. So I was the first one to book Papa Roach in San Diego.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, so they didn't play when I was there? I remember the name, but
no, they
at that point I would still get
gone. That was I think I first booked them in 97, and then I booked them in 90,
you probably brought it up
99 or something. Yeah.
Okay.
A friend of mine took me to see them at the Roxy a couple years back. It's probably about 3 years ago, and I've never been a huge fan, but it's like, yeah, I'll go check them out. And man, they were like, it was like the speakers were pushing sound so loud, like it was just like a wall of sound just hitting the crowd, man. They were tight. They were good. I mean, you could tell like a lot of metal bands you look at, it's like they're kind of going through the motions. They're kind of tired, but they didn't show any disconnectedness from the music at all. I mean, it really sounded like sincere.
Yeah. It's kind of rare, especially back then, because that's, 98, 99, mind you, I'm sitting back and I'm working at Wiener Schnitzel. Or no, wait a minute, I wasn't at Wiener Schnitzel. That's
Welcome to Der Wiener Schnitzel. May I take your order, please?
That's the next shit place I worked at that point, I was at 7-Eleven because I had to get a freaking job. I had to pay the bills because the minimal amount I was making from at Selma. I had to replace that with something. So I was working at 7-Eleven. So that's when I was working with Dominic, who was in Mower and Slower, and I think he's doing the band with PK, isn't he?
Take Cover, and Tony from Papa Roach.
Okay.
Yep.
And so Dom just kind of brought me in and really helped me find my footing, because I went from, and at that point, my girlfriend at the time, Charmaine, was still ripping off. Working at Soma. So I was in a weird place. Really weird place.
Where your identity's gone.
Everything about me was completely. The only thing that I had was, I think I switched to Coors Light, so Bud Light wasn't sponsoring me. Coors Light was, and all the depression pills didn't like me because I didn't take them all. I was just depressed all the time, in a weird fucking place. Mm-hmm. But the whole music scene, and that's one of the things that I don't really talk about too much, but kind of touched on it. When I left Soma, like I said, I just left a bag of shit for Jerry to deal with at the club. No one had any idea of all the things that I did there. And when I left, it was just the scene. There was so much just kind of everywhere. It seemed, I don't know, displaced or just kind of confused for a little bit.
No, I think.
But it seemed like the whole
scene didn't go away until someone went away. So
okay.
99 into 99, everybody's like, what the hell happened? There was a big gap. Because then everything went to Canes, and Canes was in Soma, and the chick over there booking didn't have a clue.
Mm-mm.
So
at what point did you guys start, because I know you started picking up some momentum. You brought up Billy Joe with Green Day.
You gave him that at Soma, right? I think that was 98 when Green Day played, right?
Yeah, the first piece of music we gave him, they were filming a video downtown, the video for a song called Minority. And I was kind of just getting it on his radar. We gave him Red Alert. And I guess he already knew of us somehow. I don't know how, but he's like, oh, Red Alert, right? We're like, oh, yeah. And again, the feedback we got back from Adeline Records was like, it's good, but the production value is just not there. It's just not quite there yet. Just keep going. Send us your next record.
Right.
So that's what got us on his radar. Fast forward a year, we record another record, 20 songs. I think it came out in July of 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Sent it up there, and I must have sent that record out to 50 different labels, and we got one call back.
Wow.
That was from Billy Joe Armstrong.
Okay.
Hey, we like your record. We're playing a show. We're going to be hanging out at the Fillmore in 2 weeks. Come say hi. So I pretended like our band was touring up there.
Right.
When in reality, there was just enough money in the fund box to fly us all up to Oakland.
Oh, and so you flew.
We flew up there and just stayed the night, had a fun weekend, met him there, and just things progressed from there. Yeah.
Did you guys ever hang with them whenever they would play? Because, they were like a house band. They were, what we call them? We called them the Holiday Band or something. It seemed like they always played Valentine's or...
Didn't they play Halloween shows or something?
I don't know. It's still... My birthday's sacred, and I wanted Venom to play. No, I actually did see in one of my books, there was some show that I looked at, and I'm like, fuck, I worked that? I worked it on my birthday? What the hell? Because I know that was one of the things Len was like, there's no way we're going to have anything that he really wants to play here. Like UK Subs, Exploited, one of my bands, GBH, Spent Idols. No, that would never happen. That would absolutely never happen. But I remember they did, we kind of used them as like the pivot point of whatever holiday.
Some of those bands did play after you left.
Again, rubbing the salt in the open wound.
Well, let me ask this. You said you got kind of bummed out near the end. Were you just just burnt out? You're just like, I'm done? Because from our perspective, we were like, man, Jeremy's living the coolest life. Jared, Jeremy, they're all living. They get to meet all these people. They get to book shows for a living, you know. And we got to work. I was a custodian at the time, man. I was cleaning
so was I.
shit off bathroom floors.
So was I.
At Soma.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, just different kinds of bathrooms.
To be honest, and not to be too obnoxious about it, no, I fucking hated everything about it. I hated the raves. I hated the way people were becoming rock stars. I hated how it was so separatist. It was so divided that the egos were out of control. It wasn't about local music anymore. It became about money, ego, and just bullshit. I mean, absolutely.
So you get like, say, you said ego, for example. Like, what would be a story behind like some big band would come into town and say, "Hey, we need a jar full of brown M&Ms or a cute ham and cheese," or
that was cute back in the early days. Bang Tango wanted socks, clean tube socks and condoms, and I was like, "What the fuck?" But now I understand. Now I totally understand. It wasn't, it wasn't a Van Halen thing, but no, just local bands coming in and looking at me like I was in their way, like I was going to stop them from making fucking money or wrecking my club. And it wasn't my club. It was everyone's club. Len was the head co-cheese. I ran the fucking thing. And, I'll probably get some feedback from that, but fuck you. But it was about local music. It was about, God, I'm going to get all emotional. Sorry, Jerry. I have a beer and now I get all freaking soppy. No, I had 2 beers. So.
My glass has a hole in it. Everywhere I go.
But no, it wasn't about local music anymore. I wanted to develop the scene. That was my thing, and that's why I like to hear all these stories. And I want to nitpick. Realistically, if we had 4 hours, I would want to know like what the first riff you ever played was. I want to know everything. Because it's all part of the story. We talked about this on the previous podcast that we recorded. So in season 3, it's going to be a common thread. Is one, how skateboarding ties everything together. And another one is how the scene just, it went from being all about art and DIY and it became more and more and more corporate. And the ego started to get in the way. Money started to become in the way. I personally started to see just so much division. And it broke my heart, because I was trying to establish and give people a chance to do something artistically by having a venue that this guy, Len, let me do my thing in, which in hindsight was a blessing because I could have fucked that place up. It was all his money. I never made shit. I always had roommates. I was always poor. You've seen the cars I would show up in. If I showed up a few times on my daughter's bike because I didn't have a fucking car.
Punk as fuck.
I had to walk home a couple times from the club. Yeah, and here's this guy that everyone thinks is doing this, that, and the other thing. And then the egos, I would get the attitude from people that I was getting in the way or whatever.
And see, for me, I always had a steady paycheck because I was in the Navy and I was moonlighting.
Yeah.
So it was, I think I was getting, as a doorman there, I was getting about $75 a night.
Which was more than I would make sometimes.
And that
went right he deserved it.
That went right to my pocket. So it was like, had some spending money. So it worked until I got out of the Navy. Then it was a different story.
Right.
But
we'll get into that later.
When Golden Voice took over, I actually was getting a pretty good paycheck. So I was pretty stoked on that.
Yeah. I didn't get a paycheck. I got cash. And again, to bring it back to skateboarding, is in the early 80s, when Paulo Peralta was giving some of those cats some serious money, they didn't know about taxes. So at the end of the year, they're like, wait a minute, I made, like Tony Hawk, I made $100,000 in sales of skateboards, but now I owe the government, $65,000 of it? Why do they get so much of my money? Well, you got to work the system and no one. But luckily, he's talked about it, and his dad helped him out a lot on it. But it was the same thing. Like, I didn't know about taxes. When I started doing the club, I was it was 89, so I would just be just over 21. And I didn't know shit from a hole in the wall. I started at Wiener Schnitzel. So I realistically didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know about taxes and all that. I had to learn it as I went, and the more that I learned, the less that I was making because I had to cover my ass so the government didn't get up on my shit. But I'll be completely honest, the passion and the music and the scene that we had created, and it, it's a very small part. It's all you guys, all the bands. And at one point I had so many bands. I think it was coined in the reader at 400 bands. I would have to look. But the scene in San Diego compared to LA, it completely blew up, and it was moving and shaking. And of course we were called, the next Seattle and all those things for the media to try to make money off of. But no, it was insane. And bands like you that were coming up started touring. And like Jerry was saying, by the time Jerry took over and all these bands are touring, I missed all that. I didn't get to see that.
Right. Well, Jerry, was that your experience? Like when you took over, was your experience kind of the same as Jeremy's? Did you run into a lot of like clashes with bands, or was everything kind of ironed out more harmoniously?
No, everything was, I think, more, everybody got together, and I think the scene was good then. I don't think it was going downhill or anything like that. When it went away, it was bad for you guys. Because I know, like, Noel talking about when we closed down, it was like they felt like there was like a big chunk of their life was taken from them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was like an empty space. So
yeah, I missed the smell of Soma. As horrible as it was, like you're never going to get that at Cane's.
Yeah.
You know?
Part of it is this industrial stuff that I would have to put on the floor. It was this red stuff coming in this big ass bag, and it was this sweeping compound.
Is that what it was?
So I would, and I would have to. I mean, I was the one sweep. I don't know if you ever had to do this, but
basically, you guys went from a warehouse to a restaurant. That's what Cane's was.
Yeah. Thank God it caught on fire.
And it was a warehouse that used to sweat from the ceiling.
Right.
So there was, and at one point, the artwork, oh God, we'll go into this. We're going to have Mikey Beats on sometime. Okay. And we're going to go in this. But the artwork, the artwork on the walls, those big tapestries that we had for the short in the very beginning, those things were just basically giant sponges of human waste and sweat that just absorbed that canvas. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, the paint did not seal those things. But yeah, I would try many different methods to make the bathrooms not smell like someone's armpit. Man, it just, I learned that using too much bleach, everyone would have a reaction to it later. The things you learn when you're in your 20s, trying to figure out how to clean a giant hall. But let's get back to the music.
Well, that toilet was like the worst toilet in Scotland. I mean, it's probably worse than that.
The one,
so I give the one
in the men's room.
Yeah, I mean, I've cleaned some toilets in my life, but not like that.
That's probably, by the time I left, that's probably only the third toilet that was in. It might have actually. Well, might have been the second.
We talked about the initiation with the near cleanup kids. Basically, somebody's going to scoop the toilet out.
Yeah, because it's just clogged to the ceiling at some point.
And that
why don't people flush, man?
That was always
what's the deal?
The woman's restroom.
Yes,
it was always the worst.
Yeah,
and they had to get a hefty triple ply bag and scoop the toilet out.
Yeah.
Welcome to Soma.
You want free tickets?
And then it just got to the point where sometimes I would just switch out the toilet because he was just gone.
Well, then actually after you left, we put in new toilets, the ones that would flush the cans. So if people put like soda cans or water bottles,
the little liquor bottles,
it would suck it down. But then the problem was it actually broke the plumbing outside.
Oh yeah,
piled up.
Yeah. Well, this is all for the Mikey episode because the plumbing, there was a lot of shoddy construction in there. One of the cats from Lennon brought in I can't remember his name. I think he was one of the band members of Built to Last or Cutthroat. But someone had had a little accident with a circular saw that Lynn had brought in to do some construction there.
Cut his fingers off?
Went through his leg.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I had similar with my knee, but I'm bionic, so I was able to heal after a bunch of stitches. But yeah, that was back when he was still trying to talk me to come back. But let's jump out of these horror stories and let's get back to touring. So how did the tour go? What was the impression when you guys were on tour?
First real tour we did.
Yeah.
First real tour. We got a van. We saved up enough from the shows to get a van. Had 2 fuel tanks, and right when it gets to quarter tank left on the first tank, it's when you got to hit the switch for the second tank because that means it's empty.
Yeah.
But if you're the new driver, you don't know that. Right?
Yeah.
So we got stuck on the 5 going up the Grapevine, cars flying by us in every direction. We're in the fast lanes over here, next lane over here. All our equipment's packed up in the back by the window. So if anyone rear ends us, all that stuff is going flying at the speed of sound right toward your head.
Right.
Right.
And you're on the incline?
We're on that incline, man, and we're almost to the peak.
Oh.
And our roadie, Jordan Johnson, who's now in Faster Pussycat, he didn't know that. So we're like, hit the switch, man. I'm trying, can't find it because there's no light when it's dark. It was dark out.
Oh, yeah.
There's no light where you can see the switch. So I'm thinking, okay, this is how it's going to end. This is the headline in the paper that I'm going to read, like band dies on the 5. But he found the switch, and that was like the first real tour, the first like real tour we went on. We got the book, Book Your Own Fucking Life. And just went in there and found any club that would pay us $100 to show up, even though we had no following. And we booked a 3-month tour across the U.S.
Damn, that's a lot.
Wow.
3 months.
Did Rob book that, or you guys just did it on your own?
No, Rob, I don't think Rob helped with that one, but we divvied up the responsibilities according to date. Like, okay, I'm going to book the first month. Eric, you book the second month, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And that's how we did it. And some shows we just didn't show up because Laredo, Texas is 150, 200 miles south, and San Antonio's 50 this way, and you're not going to have enough. You don't have enough gas to get there. Of course, technology being what it was back then, all you had was maybe MapQuest, where you print out the directions and hope that the building is there where it's supposed to be.
Right. So no Thomas Guide touring?
We had a Thomas Guide, but
you got to have a road atlas.
When
you're on a tour across the U.S. The Thomas Guides only work for certain not even states. They don't make them by the state. They make them by the county, I believe. So yeah, you had that because I remember too touring back then, and it was a road atlas.
Yeah,
and then
big old book.
And if it wasn't up to date, some of those roads changed names. So yeah, you would get totally lost. Yeah, no GPS, no cell phones, none of that stuff.
Yeah, you learn real quickly what your limits are. Your limits for privacy, your limits for what you can tolerate in terms of behavior.
Oh yeah.
How long you can go without food.
I take it back. We did have a cell phone in 2000.
Oh, you did?
But you know what the cost was? Because of the roaming charges, it was like $2,000.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I had a
Motorola is what we had.
I ended up having. We talked about this before, but I booked shows off of a pager, and I would go to a payphone. So like I remember a few Christmases, because we did that whole 2 weeks of shows. I would be with the family at the Christmas whatever soiree at a restaurant. My mom would take us to a fancy restaurant, and I would have to go to a payphone. So I'd always have change in my pocket, no matter where I went. And eventually I upgraded to the nicer pager, and then eventually I got a cell phone.
Same here.
And then
I got
it
a
was
cell
like
phone from Lynn.
Yeah,
but that was the
that
was the Lynn hotline.
Kick the first guy and give it to the next guy.
I couldn't call anybody on it. It was just for Lynn.
Yeah, strictly.
Where you at?
You need to get to a phone and call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, even in my early days, fuck, we're doing the flyer route and everything. I had to have a Thomas guide because when I started taking over more and more of the flyer route in my early days, my station wagon, and I'm not computer literate at all, even to this day. I'm amazed I can program. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have a VCR. Well, so there you go. But, yeah, touring and not having, contacts. And then especially with the club, for me, I was the contact. I mean, you can call Len, but that would be the booking agents and, all the higher ups. But the bands and all the local stuff, if you guys couldn't reach me one way or another, that's why I was always made sure I knew where payphones were and I had the pager. But if you're touring, you need to call someone. Hey, we're 3 hours late because we're stuck in Alabama and we're supposed to be in, I don't even know what's around Alabama.
Florida.
But, okay, Florida, but how did you guys deal with all those logistics? I mean, do you just show up at a club and hope that they still have you booked and hope you're going to get paid or?
Yeah, basically.
Really?
That's what it feels like.
That's,
that, yeah. But then you'll have a string, and I'm sure you probably know this. You have a string of like 3 really crappy shows, and then you'll show up at Jacksonville, and there's 300-400 kids there.
Right.
Right. And some of them have heard of you and are singing along. You're like, God damn, that just made the last 3 shows great.
Oh, yeah.
If I could go back in time, I would definitely just enjoy myself more because I was constantly worrying about when's the van going to break down? What are we getting paid for this show? How are we going to come home?
Are we going to eat?
Are we going to eat?
Yeah, there's a lot of stress on
I got to take a shit.
Yeah. And I wasn't looking at, I should have looked at it from the perspective of how can I make this just the coolest experience ever? Because this may or may not last. So you might as well enjoy it, even on the side of the road when the van's blown a head gasket, which did happen.
Oh, really?
In the middle of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah. We drove up to Oakland to do some pre-production for Adeline Records. One of their guys, Doug Sangline, come in the studio. I got some free time. We stay at his place. We get up about 10 a.m., record all the way through the day until 3 a.m., and for some reason decide we're going to drive back home to San Diego in this van with 2 gas tanks. 3 a.m., we leave. Past San Jose in that stretch where there's just nothing but farms. That stretch of 5 where it's just straight for 3.5 hours. And the van just totally dumps at about 5 a.m. in the morning. There's no cell phone service. We're near a town called Hanford, wherever that is. Call AAA, whoever we can to come get us.
Right.
We can't call anybody because there's no cell service.
Right.
And by 2 p.m. that day, a cop finally shows up.
No way.
Says, okay, I'm going to get you guys a tow truck. Gets us a tow truck, tows us 20 miles north to Coalinga, California, where we're trying to get a mechanic to fix the van. He says, man, I can fix it. It's going to cost you $1,500. Can't do that.
Right.
Go to the next guy. He's like, well, I can fix it, but I can't fix it till Monday. And it's already, we got to be home on Sunday.
Right.
So he's like, but I got a guy that might be able to tow you, and he won't be here until 6 p.m.
Right.
So how much money we got left in this little can here? We got like $500 left. He's like, this is all we got. If this guy can tow us back home for $500, we'll do it.
Right.
So we were hanging out in the local bar waiting for this guy to show up. He puts us he shows up. He puts the van on the back bed of his trailer, which we're all in, which is totally illegal, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
If any accident happens, we're screwed.
Oh, yeah.
He does a couple rails of meth and puts the van in gear.
There goes the $500.
Yeah. And we give him the $500 and he drives back home to San Diego at about 35 miles an hour the whole way.
Oh, my God.
We did not get home until 4 a.m. the next day.
On Monday.
And I was probably 38 hours, no sleep. The whole band, 38 hours, no sleep. No sleep, no food, just beer.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, let's go on the next tour.
Yeah.
So what tour was this that this? And first of all, I thought of it's a horror film, and then the line, "I know a guy,
Right.
he does lots of meth."
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I want him to drive us home. Fuck, this will be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking band.
Yeah.
So what was this? At what point was this in the stage of all the touring? Is this just a horror story out of the middle of it, or
This is right before we got signed to Out of Line.
okay?
And
And
we were still
who owns that label?
it's Jim Tebow
Oh, okay.
from
Skateboarding.
not World Industries. What's his company?
Oh my God, Mike, help me out here. He says, it's up north. It's oh my God, Anti-Hero, right
That's
behind
it.
me. The
That's
decks behind me. Yeah, Jim Tebow. Yeah.
Yeah, him and Billy Joe. It's not owned by them anymore. I think Green Day's manager took it over.
Okay.
And then dissolved it later.
So you can even contact them and be like, "Hey, look, we just gave this guy $500 and he's doing meth and he's driving 35 miles per hour, but he can play the mean drums on his steering wheel."
Yeah.
Because we see him from the van up on the flatbed
Yeah.
truck,
Yeah.
and 36 hours later we're home. God, I love touring.
Yeah. The hallucinations from No Sleep. Those are fun.
Him or you?
Me.
Touch and goes.
Yeah. But it makes a cool story to tell, like at the time when you're living it, it's like, God damn, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go clean toilets again.
Imagine
Right.
touring now with the gas prices.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause
Yeah.
I just tour. I got off tour. Well, I did a tour in September. 5 states, 10 cities, 10 days. And we were in an RV, so the gas was like $300 every time we fill up. It's pretty crazy.
And I imagine,
And that wasn't a full. I mean, I should say we're paying. I think the most 200, but it wasn't filling up the tank. So
that's nuts,
I was
man.
exaggerating, but it probably came out to about $300 a day filling up.
And I wonder if, as a band, you can ask for more money to compensate for that.
I think a lot of the money that we're using for gas was coming from the merch.
Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. But you got to, if the people want to see you, you got to go perform. So
Yeah, I wonder how the clubs deal with that, because obviously the bands have to pay for that sometimes, or most of the time. So how does the club, do they give them more money guarantee to compensate for that, or did they
no, I don't think there was any added funds for the gas prices.
Yeah.
So
Better figure it in.
yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, I can guarantee that we've just, well, I would have a heart because I cared. But for the most part, no, it'd be like, well, I'm not in your fucking band. You figure it out. You're the one that's trying to promote yourself. Am I going to get, because you know how it is. People want to get paid for this, that, and the other. And nowadays, same thing with me, with just my truck. It was costing me $150 to $200 to mow lawns, to be able to go to all the accounts. I start bringing it up to customers that, I'm going to have to raise my prices because, driving this much. And I ended up dropping clients because they got pissed. It's like, I'm still giving you a killer deal.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? You have to pay the same. I had one person lecture me. So back then I would imagine they would be even, more harsh. Be like,
Were you guys afraid that you weren't going to have any money to pay for gas when you were touring?
No, I think it was like, I guess that was part of it. Yeah. Like we just had never done it before. So you're facing this big, giant, unknown,
Yeah.
logistical
Because,
monster.
talking about Papa Roach, when I first booked them, they didn't have nobody knew who they were. So they're not getting any checks and there was no guarantee. So basically I gave them money out of my own pocket so they could drive back.
yeah, I had to do that with bands. Actually, a funny story. I brought down Irrepute and Offspring and the Grimm, and I don't remember who had told me about it, but I guess Len had to pay. Everyone left. What's the singer's name
Or which band?
from Offspring?
Dexter? Brian?
Dexter. I keep calling him Buster, but that Buster's from
Buster Holland.
Buster New York Dolls,
Was
right?
Poindexter.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, I guess I don't remember who told me this, but someone else said, yeah, Len had to give Dexter cab money because the band had left him down there, and I only gave him $200 to play because I didn't know who the fuck the Offspring. The only reason why I booked the Offspring was because Tony from the Ill Repute was like, "We're doing this tour. Can you do something for us?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'll put you on the main stage." Probably shouldn't have, but. Well, they ended up coming and playing. Well, Stormy made a shit ton of money off of them.
Off the Offspring, yeah.
Yeah. So, I never got any money out of that either. So I guess I did get another raw deal. But back then, I mean, that's kind of the shit that would happen. I got left. I had a ride when we were at downtown and I was still living in Santee. I had to call my dad once to come and pick me up. Called him up at 12:30 at night because I was living in his garage. And, I was, again, living the high life. Soma, yeah, I'm freaking living it. But it was a really young, early days, early 21. So he had to wake up, come and get me, and then bring me home. And he's like, "You really want to do this?" I'm like, "No, it's just, I think this is at the beginning. I thought I was on to something. I thought I could really make something with Soma." So it's kind of funny now. And I'll probably bring it up to him. But, being on the road like that, I would imagine... from not having a label behind anything that I did, that your label would kind of be like, okay, here's your credit card. If we go, we might have a limit or something per day. There's per diems. At what point did you go from being like, you're on your own, just make us a bunch of money because you're quote unquote on a label? Did that ever like really grow into something and get into, didn't you tour like internationally?
We booked our own tours, but
still
no major band ever took us on a national
support
tour.
Really?
Nobody. We never got tour support from any label.
Really?
Not even from like Surf Dog.
Really?
No.
Why didn't Green Day take you guys out?
I think their deal was like, hey, it was the same thing that BYO told us. They said, hey, like, you got to prove yourself. You got to go out there and prove that you can get your own following first.
You weren't signed to BYO, and Youth Brigade took you guys out, so Green Day should have taken you out.
I've heard that a lot.
That's like an investment to them. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get our band exposure because you guys would have been playing in front of thousands of people.
Yeah,
and that would have only got you more fans
and got them more fans.
That doesn't make sense.
We need to call Billy Joe. We're calling Billy Joe.
Well, I think he probably got inundated with so many bands that were like, hey, can you put us on a show? That like, how do you pick one without hurting the feelings of another band? I don't know. Maybe that's what it's like to be in that position. I don't know.
I've never been in that position. I had hundreds of bands that I was working with, and I wanted every single one of them to be a success. So speaking of Green Day, Mike Dirnt, right, bass player, his pants, they need to be pegged. I'm just throwing that out there because it's a long-term joke. He was proud of them. I still told him he needs to peg them. I don't care if they're from Vivian Westwood. Mike, peg your fucking pants. Peg them. Okay. So you didn't have any support. And then where would you guys get your money to actually tour?
We didn't have money to tour.
You just scrape
budget, no nothing.
Nothing. I mean, we saved up money, emergency money from the gigs we played here. And what we would do is we'd open up the Book Your Own Fucking Life tour book, and we'd get, okay, here's all the clubs that are going to guarantee us $100. Here's how much it costs from get to this town to this town. Our per diem per day will be $5 for food, maybe 10 per band member. That's it.
And this is in, basically early 2000. So it wasn't.
Yeah, you could get a 99-cent Whopper and live off that every day.
Yeah, Subway had a $2 sandwich back then, I think.
Yeah.
There's Subways everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I was living off Whoppers with Papa Roach.
Oh, Whoppers are so good.
Eating those every day.
Can I?
Okay, so you got no support from the label for touring. Everything's coming out of your pocket. And who would go on tour with you guys? Is it just the band?
Mostly the band. I got to say, Slightly Stoopid was super cool. I mean, they didn't owe us anything, and they had a huge following by then. They took us out for 10 days up and down the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
And, by then they're mostly a reggae band.
Yeah.
And were still a punk band.
Right.
So they could have taken any reggae band that they wanted, but because they knew us and we knew them, we came up playing Soma together.
Right.
Back when they were a little more ska. Like, hey, come on tour with us. They didn't care how many people we drew.
Yeah.
You know? And I think we made maybe $100, couple $100 a night.
Okay.
But we got to play for, packed houses every night, and people dug us.
Yeah.
Maybe not every show, but most of the shows, people were like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this when Adam was still in the band on drums, or?
I think so. I don't quite remember. This would have been, 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was out of the band by 6.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I mean, he's writing a book. I know. I talk to him like at least once a week, but it's not like we're talking about details of stuff. But he's got some stories that are pretty incredible. And his falling out with the band was one in its own that I was like, wait, what?
The curse of San Diego drummers, man.
Yeah. No
It's like
kidding.
Spinal Tap. They just explode.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
But
I was going to bring up, you got to tell your story about September 11th.
Yeah.
dude,
me tell it now?
yeah.
Okay, so we just got signed to Adeline. Green Day invited us backstage. They were playing a show at Coors or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, we start hanging out, like shooting shit and stuff. And Billy Joe's wife was there, Adrian. And all our friends were back there, backstage, and them in the band. And we're all drinking, having a good time. And my girlfriend at the time was talking to Billy Joe's wife. And she was like, hey, we need a nanny. Do you want to be our nanny for a while? She goes, sure, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So I drove her up to start a job at this big I don't want to say rock star, but,
yeah, it's kind of
famous person's house. And I was going to stay the night at Billy Joe's house and just fly back the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I get up at 5 a.m. I call a cab. I'm halfway to the airport when I hear on the radio, like, a plane has hit the World Trade Center.
Right.
And I remember thinking, okay, that's weird.
Right.
But planes have hit buildings before. And then the next plane hits.
Right.
And I'm almost to the airport. And I'm running through the airport halls to try to get to my gate because I'm already late. And people are just standing around, like, looking at these kiosks with television sets in them and, like, gasping. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
And I finally get to my gate, and she's like, you're not getting out of here.
Right.
You're not getting out of here today. So get a ride back to Billy Joe's house. He's like, first thing he says to me is like, I guarantee you it's an inside job. It's an inside job. I'm like, fuck.
That's what he was saying.
That's what he was saying. I'm like,
Wow.
I just want to get home, man.
That's crazy.
So that's a different story. Is Billy Joe a conspiracy theorist?
I think that was a turning point for him. He's talked about it in interviews.
Oh, really?
He said that was when he started getting more politically
Conscious.
aware in his songs.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
He talks about it. There's an Audible series. I forget the name of it. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. But there's an Audible series where different musicians talk about their experiences. He talks about that as a big turning point for him in terms of, like, what he wanted to put in his songs.
Right.
So
and you were there.
Yeah.
I was hanging out in his living room on one of the worst days in American history.
Right. Because he got the television going and you're staring at it.
Yeah, and he was like, Agent 51 was scheduled to play a show at Gilman Street September 15th. So Billy Joe said, hey, if you need to stay here until the band gets here, that's totally cool. So I hung out at his place and basically slept in for the next 5 days. I said, give me something to do, man. Give me some yard work or something to do. So he put me to work in his backyard. I was like digging post holes or something like that. And he's got this house that just overlooks all of San Francisco and Oakland. I mean, he did at the time. I don't know if he still lives there, but
He's in Newport.
is that where is that
He's down
okay?
in
Yeah. I
heard his
babysat his
kids
kids, hung out with his kids. They were recording international super hits. They were recording the extra songs for that at the time. So I would go hang out with them at the studio and just kind of shoot the shit. And then until the band got to town, we played Gilman.
Mm-hmm.
Green Day actually ended up playing that show. That was the one show we played with Green Day.
Oh, okay.
And
So you never played with them at Soma at all?
no, never.
Who was booking the shows back then? Jerry.
They didn't. They played, and I think that's when Todd was doing it.
I don't even understand why I wouldn't have had you guys do. Anyway, I digress.
Green Day didn't play. I think maybe they played twice at Metro.
Yeah,
They played more at Union than they played at Metro.
Yeah.
They blew up. They were so big. They were doing arenas. So yeah, they like most of the bands, they blew up.
Oh yeah,
and
they
left
get
us.
too big and then
We don't see them again.
I remember that first Union Street Green Day show I ever went to. I think it was $10.
Mm-hmm.
It was Green Day, Buck 09, Face to Face, and I think Unwritten Law.
That sounds about, yeah.
I was in the mosh pit. I picked up an Unwritten Law sticker that was stuck to the ground, and I jumped on top to float, and I slammed the Unwritten Law sticker on the monitor in front of Billy Joe, and he picked it up and he put it on his guitar. I was like, yes! Such a fanboy moment. Little did I know that I would.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, let's get back to September 11th, because I'm in that whole week. Like, what's your mind frame?
I'm actually surprised you guys even did a show after that, because I was working for.
You guys get this?
We did.
The 15th.
Yeah, it's weird because I was doing Street Scene that weekend, and I was working for Counting Crows, POD, Offspring. I was doing merch, and Roach, who was actually touring with Counting Crows at that time, they canceled the tour. It was done. So that's why I was surprised that you guys even played on the 15th.
Yeah, I mean, I had mixed feelings about it, but we had booked this show as an Adeline Records showcase. So I was like, well, if they still want us to play the show, we'll play the show. Maybe people need relief or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But we played. They had a booth set up for like disaster relief, I think, for a lot of the victims. And I remember being there. There was some commotion about, after Green Day played, there was some commotion within the ranks of Gilman about whether a major label band should be able to play there ever again, something like that. But I think a lot of people don't know that Billy Joe's a huge supporter of Gilman Street.
He's dumped a lot of money.
He's dumped a lot of money in there. So,
but he doesn't brag about it, right?
No, I don't think he makes any mention of that.
That's what I heard, because him and Lint or Tim. I'm one of very few people that still call him Lint, but that's kind of their home base. For putting into relation, like my home base would be Union Street. I mean, Union Street of Soma. That's where I cut my teeth. That's where I made shit happen. So if that was still around, and for me, if it was still around, damn well, I would just go there and paint graffiti if I had nothing to do with it at this point in my life, But for them, that's really where they cut their teeth.
Oh, big time.
From everything from Op Ivy to them when they're still hippie kids. And what was the name of their band back then? Before they changed.
Sweet Children?
Yeah, Sweet Children.
Yeah.
So, but that was, I remember that even when we went up there was short-lived, was, no corporate bands, and I understand the dynamics, but come on. You need money. You need someone on the inside, someone that's going to be able to support it, that someone has a credibility to keep something like that running, because of the fact that as people get older, they start to fall off and, do other things, or they get a good gig where they make a bunch of money and then they're like, fuck you. And then they move on. But,
yeah.
So bless him for staying, and we'll call him later.
Yeah.
And I'll have to tell him to tell Mike to peg his fucking pants. Fucking bell, but they're so big. He's knocking people over, and oh my God.
When was the last time you talked to those guys?
Gosh, geez, probably like directly, probably 2002.
Oh, so it's
You
been
know,
a
like
strong
we did a
minute.
call from time to time on tour.
Yeah.
You know,
Does your ex-girlfriend still work for him?
I don't think so. But years later, when I worked for Vans in 2004, we took a trip to New York, a business trip, and I'm walking down the Garment District, and there's Trey Cool and Mike Dirnt just like hanging out on the side of the not the road, but the street, like drinking paper bag tall boys of like Bud Light. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're recording. I guess they were doing pre-production there for American Idiot or something like that.
Oh,
But
wow.
like, what are the odds that like in New York City where there's a million people that like,
You see him.
yeah,
Yeah.
how just,
Well, they were,
Wow.
they were cool with you.
yeah, I think so.
yeah, that kind of. Well, I don't know. I called him out for drinking Bud Light, and I called him a couple morons, but yeah, they liked it.
I
No,
just thought that was so cool. It's like
it
you could
seems
buy,
like them.
you could
know?
buy the most expensive bottle of anything you want, and you're just like punk as fuck.
right, but you got your roots or
Bud
your
Dry
roots.
or whatever it was. I thought that was that was so cool.
Yeah.
Back to the root.
Why
Yeah.
ask why? Drink
Like
Bud
Gilman
Dry.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. There's a punk documentary called Turn It Around about the story of East Bay punk.
Okay.
It kind of delves into the birth of the Gilman scene,
Oh,
And-
okay. I got to check it out.
tying it back into skateboarding, like you had mentioned earlier. You could argue that everything that was going on at Gilman and the East Bay punk scene back then, Operation Ivy, Green Day, Isocracy, Crimp Shrine, all those bands, you could say that everything that was about to happen in San Diego was kind of an extension of what was going on there, because we would get all of our music from the skateboard videos. I wouldn't know who Operation Ivy was if it wasn't for the H Street video. I wouldn't know who Rancid was or No Effects or any of those.
Sub Society
Green
is the
Day.
big one that I always hear about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
see-
like the first girl I ever kissed, you know, out in this like cold ass vacant lot. Like I hear Green Day playing in the background and I stopped kissing her for a moment. I'm like, who the hell is this band? They're so great.
Yeah.
You know? And that was the first time I heard him. For them ever since then. You know, that was the Plan B Questionable video I think they were on. Them and Bad Religion, Pennywise, all those bands were how we got our music. There was no
Really?
streaming services, obviously. So
yeah.
you would get pumped up on adrenaline watching these videos and go out and skate and burn 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
And then you'd go see their show and buy their merch.
The craziest thing is, I'll listen to the Nine Club. I listen to Nine Club weekly just to get the insight and try to pretend like I'm still hip and relative, even though I got my company. But I realistically, and it's becoming more and more apparent how completely focused I was on just music. I had no idea how many people skated and how they got all these bands from skate videos. Literally had no idea. I mean, now I look at someone and go, oh, yeah, he still skates. You know, I'm 54 and I'll look at someone, no, he's a fucking poser. He's mall grabbing. He's
Right.
he's no Bill Danforth. I bet you he rides
Right.
frickin'. He probably still butt boards and he's 30. You know, but the videos were a huge influence. And then even when I lived with DDA brought up, you know, oh, we're in the, you know, Sub Society's in the H Street video. I didn't watch those videos. I watched the Bones Brigade stuff. And that's it. I didn't watch skate videos. I didn't really watch videos.
Well, we
But
were kind of
now, in hindsight, I'm like, that was a fucking idiot. You know, I could have learned so much more. I would have killed two birds in one stone. I probably would have skated more back then. And I would have had not only, you know, 3 or 4 pairs of creepers and 5 pairs of docks. I would have had a couple more pairs of Vans. But, you know, I had no idea how influential on everything until the Warped Tour. And then once the Warped Tour started coming, well, we did something at one point. I don't know if you were at the club. We had, I think it was pre-Warped Tour. Do you remember anything where they tried to tie skateboarding in? I think they tried to bring a ramp, you know, which was not going to happen at that club. But it, you know, now in hindsight, I'm finding out more and more those videos were, and they still are hugely influential. A lot of the hip hop and all that is used in all this stuff, and I still get Thrasher every month. But you know, I never had no idea. Skate Rock tapes. Remember, Mike, back in the day, the Skate Rock tapes, and I had a couple of. I probably still have them in archives. No, no. If I would get some demo stuff that I thought was really cool, I would probably pass it down because I got so much stuff all the time, and nope,
Go get it.
go get it. So the wife's home, so that's Boogie letting us know that V's home. But yeah, I had no idea how it intertwined so much until we started doing season 3, and now it seems like everyone that's coming through has one way or another tied to skateboards, which is fun because, you know, here in the skateboard museum, you know, it's like it's starting to all make sense.
Yeah.
Which makes it also easier for these conversations to dig deep and poke and you know, get the information out. But so we're going to jump ahead because I'm still stuck on this touring thing.
Yeah.
After the September 11th, you do that show.
Right.
Where are you guys at band-wise with that? Are you looking at touring more? Or did September 11th, like... Because for me, it kind of really affected me. I saw it on... it's real quick. I was doing Tile. I was doing the bathroom, which was bigger than this room that we're in now, of one of the kids of the heirs of Chiclets. Chicle? And he had a bunch of friends over, and the TV was up in his room, so I was watching Mexican television, and I can understand enough Spanish to where I'm watching, and I'm just going, holy crap. And I'm supposed to be tiling this high-end freaking bathroom for the 16-year-old kid who has a Porsche out in the driveway. And I'm watching all this shit, you know, they're Mexican television. You could see people jumping out of the buildings and crap. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, we're in a weird place right now. So I can only imagine you're up at Billy Joe's. You're digging post holes so he can put up a fence to keep people like us out of his yard. And you're watching that, and then you have to play a show. What do you do next? Like, get me the fuck out of here? I'm going back to San Diego, or...
Yeah, I just hitched a ride with the band back home and just feeling really disconnected, kind of like, where's this all going? Like, what's the appropriate response to all this?
Yeah.
Just kind of processing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Where was the rest of the band with you on that?
I don't know how they were feeling. They weren't vocal about it, but I assume they were probably feeling the same way.
So it's Eric and Jordan?
Eric on guitar. By then we got a new drummer, Mike Levinson.
Okay.
And Sean Scarra on bass.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you didn't bring anyone on road, or?
At that time, I don't think we could afford a roadie, really.
Okay.
It was kind of like we were still having to do all our own touring. Even when we got signed again to the next label, it was kind of like, well, it's up to you guys to make it or break it.
Wow. Okay, so who's the next label?
And how did that come to going to the next label?
We got connected. Well, we played Warped Tour.
Okay.
We played Warped Tour.
Who hooked that up?
Joe Sib from Side One Dummy. We sent a record to him. He said, can't really help you out there, but if you guys want to play Warped Tour, I can give you Kevin Lyman's number. So I called Kevin Lyman, said blah, blah, blah. He put us on Santa Barbara, LA, and Ventura. And that got us to a wider audience.
Right.
We won the Battle of the Bands that year. I met who's now my fiance, Justine. I met her in San Diego at that show, the Warped Tour show. And that kind of got us a little more exposure locally. And Surf Dog called up and said, we want to sign you guys. And we signed probably one of the worst deals in music history.
No.
They gave us a huge budget. But we're like, hey, we'll give you $30,000 to do a record. Great. We don't owe that back? Oh, wait. You probably do owe it back. You just don't know you do because you know nothing about the music business.
Right, because you don't have the person... There's no Malcolm McLaren saying, no, you're going to go do this while he's, writing checks his ass can,
Yeah.
So, and was Rob working with you at all at this point?
We parted ways with Rob for Algera. Algera 91X back then, I think.
Rock 105?
I
Yeah,
forget
Rock
which
105.
station he was with, but he...
Well, they kind of bounce around
Yeah.
everyone. So you're working with Al.
Al got us the deal with Surf Dog. So we signed this deal. I mean, I could have signed it in crayon for all I know. I don't remember. They said...
You didn't read the fine print.
I didn't even know what fine print was, man. I had them send me a copy of this thing, and I read through the thing. I was like, damn, y'all own our music in perpetuity. I didn't know what the word perpetuity meant back then. I thought it meant, just till we're done making the record, then get our music back.
Right.
Nope.
No. So it was a real turning point, because now you're signed to a label that wants to throw a bunch of money at you, and in return they want a hit. It's like, well, what's a hit? Like, I'm from a punk band,
right?
I don't know what that is,
right?
And feeling all the pressure, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to try to write a hit,
right?
And there was a shift. A shift happens. You guys can probably all speak to this. A shift happens when you're just having fun in a band, doing this for fun. Yeah, would it be great to do it for a living? But when it becomes a business.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shift that happens that's very critical, where you lose something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You lose something. I don't know what it is.
You're under a timeline. You're under a crunch. You gotta produce.
You gotta produce. Like, you lose some spontaneity there. And as an artist, as a songwriter, I think your job is to always be sincere and real.
And creative.
And
when you become a product,
you can't do that under stress.
You can't do that. And I was under a lot of stress back then. Like, I was living in a garage.
It's good living.
It was
beats
cool.
a car or a bench in a park.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to protect your vinyl. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It would get so hot in there in the summer. All I had was a whirlybird. There was no insulation.
Now you're bragging.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It didn't inspire any good music, I can tell you that.
I mean, realistically, I would find it. I found some of the most times of, absolutely kicked in the face and knocked down, and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do something really creative. But what would end up happening with me is eventually whatever beer sponsor was sponsoring me the most at that point, and I would start to find a way to weasel out, so I would keep my creative self back because I got so focused on just finding another way to survive. So again, my creativeness and my embodiment of being creative would become because I'm trying to survive. So I can imagine, because I've never been under the almighty label of anything. No one's ever, other than Soma, I had to produce for the scene, but I can only imagine if you got a label saying, okay, well, we want a hit, I'd be like, okay, I'll give you a hit. Here, it's lit. Go ahead and hit it. I can't. That to me would be, I might as well just, stop me, replace me with someone else, because that's not how I work creatively.
Right.
And you've never had to work that way creatively either. So.
No, and I should have handed him a joint and said, here, take a hit off this. Because what happened was I started writing songs for other people and not myself. Some of the songs on that record we did, I like, and some of them I just listen, I cringe. I'm just like, oh God, why did I let that one out in the world? Can't take it back.
Yeah, but Jewel made that one a hit.
The problem with that is, let's say it works. Let's say you do write a hit song.
Right.
And you got to play that motherfucker every night for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest curse of having a popular song.
You better like it, because if you don't like it, now you're stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think some bands only have one hit.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, I'm kind of thankful that it didn't really fly.
Right.
Because I can kind of just put it on a shelf over here and
well, let's go back to, so you're writing songs for other people and you're just kind of going through the motions. So what, where's the tension going, and what sort of, are you being pressured still to write, or?
Yeah. Basically, I kind of was coming to the same threshold that you came to when you were like, I'm done.
Right.
Because I just couldn't manage to find a way forward where I was happy. I didn't like the music I was writing.
Right.
You know, we weren't making any money on tour.
Right.
You know, I felt like I needed to offer something deeper or something to be able to survive. And I was 28 years old, never had a real full-time job in my life. And I just thought I need to go back home where my heart beats and figure out my own life for my own sanity.
Right.
So I left. I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I left.
Was there any legalities with that?
I don't remember signing anything. I remember the label being really pissed.
That's what middle
Probably a
fingers
good
are for.
reason.
Tax write-off.
Yeah, the band was pissed. Everybody was pissed, but I felt like relief. You know?
Right. And that's the most important thing.
My mental health was really not good.
So you never dove into drugs and alcohol to suppress it?
No, I mean, a couple Coronas here and there, but like my focus was like, all right, how can I just support myself?
Right.
So that's when I just started working on my art. I still wrote music, but I just started working on my graphics. You know, started sending out resumes everywhere for my graphics, just trying to get hired. Got hired at Vans 6 months later. Just said I need to have some creative outlet here that I can keep my sanity at the same time. I was really burnt out, you know, just felt like I was just doing everything, you know, the booking of the shows, the songs. I feel like it was all on me. You go from 4 guys in a garage just having fun to like, now it's all on you to support 3 other people and their careers and their families. It's like,
yeah.
how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And especially when you don't have anyone really supporting. You have people there that are willing to take their part out of what you're doing, but they're not putting in. So, you know, that can be extremely frustrating. I'm getting pissed just thinking about it because I've been in that situation.
Yeah. If you have 4 songwriters in a band, that's a lot easier, you know, but me, I was kind of the primary guy. So that's not to say the other guys weren't creative, but for me, it was kind of all on me.
Right.
The pressure was all on me. So what do you do? I don't know. I mean, I imploded basically.
Is this when you started Green Ribcage Graphic?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And
which is still going now because obviously our logo is your work.
Green Ribcage.
And again, you know, huge thanks on that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
But so when did you start finding a place to get comfortable writing and playing music again? Because you know we've been to a couple shows now, and you're just killing it. We'll eventually start coming. You know, we'll start wrapping things up because the climax of this is the last time that Jerry and I saw you when you just got out of the hospital. Right, you were released that day, and then you did sound check, and you're like, yeah. I'm missing the appendix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go ahead and play this fucking show.
Yeah.
And a packed room, the belly up, killed it. I mean, like ridiculous. It was like good old energy. So we're going to get to that, but let's fill in those other spots where you're, you know,
right.
When did you start like, okay. And were you with Justine at this point yet, or?
Yeah. We've been together for about 4 years now.
Okay.
And she's been a huge support, you know, just,
what year was the Warped Tours?
2000.
Okay.
We had just met at that show.
Okay.
But we just remained friends until like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we just enjoyed each other's company.
I think I went to a couple of those shows in 2000.
Yeah. That was, dude.
Actually, no. I did go to, Green Day was on that.
Yeah.
Papa Roach was on that. I was actually on Ozfest. So I went to one show in San Diego, and then I hit the road for Ozfest. So
that was fun. That was like a sea of human beings out there.
Yeah.
That was a real big victory. We won the Battle of Bands that year, and like UPS shows up with this big old box full of Ernie Ball guitar strings, like 20 boxes. I'm like, I'm never going to run out of strings now, man. Like,
Yeah.
I still got packs of those from 22 years ago.
I mean, I would be switching them out every day just because I had them.
Right. Yeah.
I tried to get sponsored by Blue Steel, and I wasn't able to make any headway. So then I tried to get a hold of my friend Jim Cherry, and that's when I found out that he had passed because he was sponsored by Blue Steel bass strings, and I think it was when him and his wife Wendy, rest in peace, Jim. But he came over for my birthday and gave me these strings, and I'm like, oh, I can fucking hurt someone with these. Right. I like these strings. So then when Sin Sin started to really get going and it was like, okay, I can do something with this band. It was like, oh, okay, I'm going to get a hold of Blue Steel. And I was going to send him the EP. And then I found out that Jim had passed. And I'm like, well, fuck that. So then I went back to my strings were dirtier than the bottom of my shoes. And I still, well, my wife's bought me strings every now and again just out of the blue. But yeah, if I had a crate of strings, oh my God.
I kind of missed buying strings after a while. I was like, damn.
There is kind of a
Just
whole
having dirty
thing
old,
to it.
just dirty strings, just dirty black old crusty strings,
know.
man.
Yeah.
Just snap like string.
Yeah. It looks cool on stage too when you're all dramatic. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So you get a crate of strings, and sorry, I have to go down those
It happens.
those alleys. They're dark alleys of inner thoughts. So you have a mountain of strings. You're wrapping them around yourself.
Yeah.
You're calling yourself Iron Man, or
Among
did I
other
make that up?
things. Among other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those three Warped Tour shows were good.
Yeah, they were great. It's like you're just getting, I don't know how many thousands of kids there. And they're buying
yeah.
your t-shirts and merch and like they've never seen you before. You know, but it's the right audience for the right band at the right time. It's not like pulling into Mobile, Alabama and playing with Joe Schmo and the Pick-Me-Ups.
And that
Right.
and those shows at that time Warped Tour was still pretty big,
Pretty big, yeah.
Weren't they like 5,000 to 10,000 per show?
more.
Okay.
It was always over 10,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They
And are you playing like a main stage or a side stage type thing? Because don't they have multiple
they had like
stages?
three stages.
I've
four
never
stages.
been to one. I only went to the first Lollapalooza when Green Day, and we went there specifically to talk to Golden Voice and Green Day. So I don't. It's kind of like a festival type thing, and you're playing minimum of what, a few thousand people
Yeah.
each time.
Yeah. And we're getting decent slots too. It's not like we were going on while Rancid was playing or something,
Oh, okay.
you know, so it was cool.
Yeah,
It was a real boost.
That year in San Diego was at the Coors Amphitheater.
That's right. Yep.
Now, do you have product that you have in this? Any merch, any records or anything? Or
Yeah, we have CDs, shirts, stickers, all the stuff. Mostly just throwing it out for free.
okay,
Yeah.
but you're definitely building like the core audience. Where do you go with that? Where does it?
Well, from there, Adeline, basically.
Okay.
From Adeline to Surf Dog,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the thing I remember being surprised most about with Surf Dog was just like, oh, they're a big label. Of course they're going to support us on tour,
Right.
right?
Right.
But like,
That's stuff you gotta
Nothing?
find out
Yeah.
before you
I just
sign.
all I see
Yeah.
is this giant zero. Like, nope.
yeah.
So no support with. Is there anyone that you can call in case of anything? I mean, granted, there's no credit card. They don't give you at least someone ahead, a phone number, anything.
No, I mean, they had a few gigs that they hooked up. Like, okay, these guys will give you $300.
So it's basically DIY still,
Still DIY.
but someone else trying to take a piece of the action.
Yeah, we're going to put your music on movies, video games, TV shows, and we're going to take the money.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're on some PlayStation games. We're on a
Are you
game.
serious?
Yeah, we're on a game called Big Mother Truckers 2.
Oh, I got that one.
We're on some Fox. We were on the World Series 2009, Super Bowl 42. What else? Some Fox TV show.
I remember your name would
Yeah.
come up every now and
So
again, and I'm like,
they
what the-
recouped the 30,000 basically.
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't have to pay any of that back either. They just
No.
kind of pulled it from.
Yeah.
Wow. And then the tax write-off.
Right.
Wow. So you didn't even get a welfare check from them.
Nothing. They've never sent us a statement of how many records we
You get
sold.
like 10 grand for like less than 30 seconds worth of play on
Yeah.
a TV show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that money is.
No royalties.
No, they claim to own the publishing on it. And
It's theirs.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's theirs. And I think the only thing they really did for us was give us a $5,000 advance to buy a van.
Huh. Wow.
But if I had known anything about the music business back then, I would not have signed that deal.
Well, it makes me, again, I feel even more guilty that I wasn't more knowledgeable to teach people. Well, once you were done with me, then you had to deal with Len. And why wasn't, it just seems like there's a stopgap there that should have,
Well,
there should have been
the
more.
problem was you didn't get a lawyer to look at it.
Right. Well, the label's like, well, here's a great lawyer we can recommend. He'll look
Oh.
over the contract
Worked
for
for them.
Works great for us.
Yeah.
But-
yeah. The guy in all gold.
Yeah.
The guy with all gold teeth
The
that's
lawyer they
smiling.
were offering you was their lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have a outside.
You need a third party.
Yeah. To be fair, I should have known about the music business back then. I should have known about.
Well, how are you going to
Shame.
know about it? I mean,
know?
who's? It's not like you're looking up on YouTube. I'm going to be in a fucking band and I want to make some money off of this and not get ripped off. There's no.
You could market though. You could turn that to your favor.
Yeah.
'Cause You got name
Yeah.
recognition.
Right.
You just got to do an Instagram thing or whatever.
Exactly.
You could recoup some of that.
Maybe
I'd like to. I'd like to.
Good.
well, the credibility that they have, Mike, and it's amazing just in this town. I mean, you guys are known hugely and so respected. I mean, you're a staple of whenever anything gets talked about. Sulo. Whenever Sulo and I are talking about anything or anything about, I wouldn't call it like it kind of is the Salad Days. I mean, you guys are one of the names that's always brought up. You got the Powways, but you guys are there. You're in that mix, but you don't have to. On the other flip side, you don't have to deal with all the bullshit of having a lawyer every time that you write a record or even write a song. So that's, that would probably. I don't know. I think the money would kind of help pay some bills, maybe.
Play. How often do you play now?
These days, not much. I mean, with the virus and everything that happened, I just hunkered down and started writing mostly.
And you're still selling songs to other bands?
Yeah, I mean, I still do production work for other bands, and I plan on playing more live this year. But this past year, I busted my finger. I broke my finger. My appendix didn't help.
Yeah.
This last year has just been a wreck. It's just been a wreck, man.
So the Chris Arms music, is that for production?
That's
that's
my publishing company for my own songs. Like
okay.
So
does their own, okay.
Yeah. And then I do production work for other bands. Like say a band will come in with the song and they'll be like, hey, we want it to sound like this. Can you make like a work tape demo for us? And that's basically what I'll do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not only with Green Ribcage graphics, you're doing that, which I know you got to be starting to get swamped because the email that went out, I'm sure you're pretty busy with that. And then your production. So how much time do you actually have to, and do you find the time? Do you feel the creativeness to be able to like just go and sit and write music?
I got to make time for that, honestly.
Okay.
Like, I got to sit down and say, all right, I'm writing for this half hour.
Right.
Right. Because.
And half-hour increments?
Yeah. Because.
You're that busy?
There's just no. Well, yeah. These days, yeah.
Okay.
Because.
That could be a good thing.
There's just so many damn distractions,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just make time to write these.
Like
days.
Billy Joe sending you, I'm sorry.
Well,
The fence fell down. Can you?
The other issue with doing shows is a lot of your band members don't live in the state, so you definitely have to plan way ahead.
Sure,
to get everybody together to do a show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mike, our drummer, he's back now. He lives in San Diego now. Sean is in Washington. Greg's in LA, and our first bass player, Jared, he's here now too. So yeah, it's like corralling a.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that, well, actually, I was talking to Sulo earlier today, and that Jerry and I are going to be working on. We have other people, you know, I brought it up before, but the Magnol Company kids are a bunch of young kids that I'm mentoring, but John from he was G Spot and now Beta 7. We're trying to do a reunion type show, but Sulo really wants to do another Soma show, like the Swindle Classified Agent 51 show. So we're trying to figure out ways to get band members in town, like Buck 09, who Jerry works with. They're coming in town to record more for an album, but they have to bring everyone in town. So when you come up with, if someone says, hey, do you want to do this? Does it take like months to get everything coordinated, or are people able, because this is the problem too, are they able to just at a drop of a hat be like, yeah, I can be out there in a month?
It takes a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's all these logistical things that have to happen. You know.
So the Pivot show, it took you a couple months to get everything together, make sure everybody was going to be there.
Yeah.
And I know Mikey wasn't there at that show. Was he?
Yeah, Mikey was there.
Was he? I don't remember seeing him. That's weird.
He had just moved back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was like.
Oh, Sean wasn't there.
Sean was not there.
That's what it was.
Did Eric play that one, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to figure out, for me personally, just trying to get Brian down here from up in, I think he's up in Carlsbad now, to come down, and then trying to figure out a drummer just to come in and sit, just to play here, let alone, you know, coordinating to do the podcast. We have to get Jerry to be able to come down, and we have to try to do as much as we can in a short amount of time. Mike coming over the border, well, 2.5 hours trying to get over the border just to get over here.
Don't remind me. Oh, man.
So,
it's like, Jesus Christ.
I know.
you know, the logistics of everything. And me personally, I find it so hard to do I have to really get a lot of ducks in a row. But luckily, I'm not, you know, a band that, if it's announced that I'm going to play, if 100 people go, woohoo, I'm going to want to have all their heads checked. Because unless maybe if Cockroach played, I think enough people would be like, oh, we're going to go see this. He's old. He's going to be upside down. We have to go see this. And I'm hoping that's what people would think. But realistically, you know, you're at that point where if you announce that you're playing somewhere, people want to see you play.
That surprises me, honestly. Like,
how could that be? I mean,
I don't know. I just feel so lucky that we got anywhere.
Yeah,
honestly.
But the talent and your hometown heroes, because you tried doing all the bits and pieces. You know all the people. I mean, it's, you know, again, we'll just bring it on the podcast. I'm still, you're helping me trying to get a hold of Tom so I can bring Tom in here. But you're about as DIY as it gets. And so you play and people are like, yeah. And I'm sure half the people are like, well, who's he going to have on stage with them?
Right.
But they don't really care because they want to see you play.
Yeah, that honestly, like, I would have thought that we would be one of those bands that just kind of faded away by now.
Kind of like one of my bands.
Well, just
commercials work, dude. That football game shit.
Right. Maybe. Maybe I owe that label of thanks.
Yeah, that's
you
what
know?
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they know you're on.
Right.
I know him.
I've heard their music somewhere. You know, when you mention our name to people, they're like, "Oh yeah," you know, like I've heard of that.
But it's also, you know, we come to this point where we can go for hours and hours and hours, and we will.
It's like the picture I sent you that Jay from the Suicide Machines took on the East Coast with somebody who had an Agent 51 tattoo.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Talk about a cool band, Suicide Machines.
Yeah.
Back to being on tour, we played Emos in Austin.
Oh, okay.
And we somehow got hooked up with the show opening up for them. And the guitar player was like, "Man, you guys are the best band I've seen in 10 years." I'm going, "All right, here's your $20." You know, like, you probably say that to all the opening bands because they're taking $100.
Yeah, he's just sent me a Venmo before this interview.
Oh,
to
did
tell
he?
you that.
And what year was that?
This would have been 2002.
So that was Derek.
Yeah.
Or not Derek. I'm sorry, Dan.
Skinny guy.
Dan.
Yeah. But we hung out. We hung out after the show. They were so cool and so down to earth. And by then, I mean, they had a pretty darn big following.
Yeah.
And they played Soda Bar last year, I think. And
Right.
they played Red Alert.
Wow.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
man.
I was impressed when I heard it. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think I'll have to do a cover band and have you come in and have Mike sing it, and you know.
Redskin. That's a good song.
Appreciate that.
I didn't know it was you. I was just sitting there going,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool song.
Thanks, man.
Speaking of Jerry, do we have anything else queued up?
Well, I was gonna see if Chris wanted to promote anything before we end the podcast.
Yeah.
Green Rib Cage Graphics, that's my graphics company. If you search my name on a website called Air Gigs, that's where I do all my production stuff. But other than that, I'm just writing right now. I'm doing my like kind of more Americana folky stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff I'm really interested. Is there something we can play right now? And
I got a song that's kind of like Springsteen-y, you might say.
it's
Which song was
Yeah.
it?
Called Lord Let Me Run.
I was looking for the ones you sent me.
Oh, that's the new punk stuff I'm working on.
Mystifying or
Yeah.
Pop Stars.
Yeah, that
playing
hopefully becomes new agent stuff. So if you want to play one of those, that's totally cool.
yeah. We need to have a couple
Which one
songs.
did you want to hear?
Get in.
Just flip a quarter. Either one. Surprise me.
Flip a can. I can do the old bottle with that whole thing about throwing the water. But what was up with that? Just completely off the. Man, tick
Right.
You gotta get into that, dude.
I'm
You
trying.
gotta do something.
It is so time consuming.
Yeah, we'll have somebody do it for you. Some kid,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to have. But you know what my kid does? No, I'm gonna fix your toilet.
Here we go.
The kids just want to know the truth. But what's that really saying about you? Because it's mystifying, death-defying, stupefying.
What happened?
Yeah, that's weird.
Needs a download.
Screensaver or whatever.
No, I like that. So what is this? Is your new project
Yeah,
that you're
this
doing?
is like from time to time I'll go way deep into the folk stuff, try to get real lyric oriented, and then I'll find myself getting just more and more pissed off and angry for some reason that I can't identify with, and then I'll write all the angry
What
shit.
kind of folk? I mean, what's your favorite folk band?
Stuff I'm listening to now, like the usual Dylan, Springsteen.
I guess we'll kind of play this in the background while you're talking.
Yeah.
yeah.
Keep it low.
Towns Van Zandt, Guy Clark. Who else? Let's see. I've been on a big Towns kick lately. Just trying to get more like lyrically driven. Try to tell more of a story.
Right.
Rather than just be piss and vinegar all the time. But I find I'm pretty decent at the piss and vinegar stuff. It's there. It's always going to be there. Like,
Yeah.
It's that 30 grand.
Yeah.
that 30 grand, man.
Fucking crap.
I'll never escape it. So I've learned to embrace it, like really embrace that side of the artistry, if that's what you want to call it.
Right.
I'm always going to have my roots in punk,
Right.
Yeah,
There's no reason not to express yourself in any possible way artistically you can. I mean, when I'm getting sidetracked by this song, but when with Red Rum Skates, I had to do other companies off to the side so I could justify doing, like I did a deck with Koi Fish, and then different things artistically that aren't really horror related. So I thought I needed to start another company to justify that. And then I started, wait a minute, this is me. Mm-hmm. I might as well just put a middle finger on the fucking board because they're just, the art's the same way for the most part. But when I pigeonhole myself just trying to be what I think people want out of me, then I'd lose interest.
Yeah.
And like my wife complains about having writer's blocks. It's just, she just doesn't really, she's not inspired by anything right now that really gets her, gets the creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably because she spent so much time just trying to raise her daughter and stay pigeonholed, focused in on that. She has a hard time breaking out of that. But now Monkey's 22, so.
Wow.
But as an artist, you can't always be pigeonholed. At some point, you got to.
I know you can fix that. I know how you could germify that koi. You could have a cat carrying one off.
I know. No, I did a whole bunch of just different art. I mean, I was really into, I raised orchids for 25 something years and I had over 400. I'm not just, Halloween and horror and mohawks. I've got many things. Yeah, I am a sensitive.
Letting you down, man. I don't know.
No, I'm kidding. It's funny because you bring it up when John from Beta 7, he came here with the ska documentary. He's doing that, and I'm going to end up doing all the narration for the documentary. So we sat here, and this is at the beginning of COVID, so he still had his mask on, and I'm just on the couch. And so I had to tell the story for the first time. I never really told the story. He had no idea what I did at Soma, let alone everything else. So we're going through it, and now I can feel it again. But I started getting emotional because of my attachment to what I was trying to do, and then the fact that I had it so ripped away, and then I had to rebuild and reconstruct myself so I can be behind a mower, which I was used to mowing lawns and flip people off. But in my head, I'm like, fuck you and fuck you, and I want to be doing this, and these bands, they need to get, more exposure, and it was a hard time. So I ended up, that's when I worked at 7-Eleven for about 3 years. So I was just a freaking, 7-Eleven jockey.
Seems
and
like I saw you or something.
Probably. It was
Check on you or something.
with V, my wife. There's a lot of people that saw me in my saddest of times, and,
I was going to ask Chris, was there an Agent 51 song you wanted us to play to close this podcast?
Sure. Let's do. There's a song we wrote on the Red and the Black album called "Been So Long." That one was kind of a sleeper for us. So since it's been so long since we've hung out, maybe it seems
literally
appropriate.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and Chris. I gotta think it. Obviously we're. Even the wife wants to hang out. She's like, I got to get home and say hi to Chris.
Well, thank you.
So
for
this is
having
just the beginning, but thank you for coming on again. We did this
Anytime.
before, and it was Mike. We came in before and we did this, but it was kind of chaotic and it was late and there was a bunch of voices and we were trying to get a bunch of stories. So thank you for coming in and doing this proper for us, and thanks for sharing. And
Podcast. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anytime. And I know we left some stories off the table that we can do a part 2 of.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
Oh no, there's going to
great
be
to have all 4 of us in a room again.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's going to be. This is just the beginning. There's a lot of and the greatest thing about this is the fact that people are coming in and sharing with Jerry and I the stories, because with the basis of Soma or whatever, weaving into everyone's stories. Everyone has a story to tell, and this is a place where we can share.
For sure.
So again, thank you.
And it's been so long.
Yes.
There we go.
What do you get for your anger? And what do you get for your pain? Inside you live this life of danger. You're always on the go. Still only scars remain. But it's been so long since I've tried. Yeah, it's been so long since I've cried. Still my heart goes on. Yeah, it's been so long. Yeah, it's been so since I've tried, but still my heart goes on. Yeah, it's been so long. Yeah, it's been so long since I felt the pain when I'm moving eastbound on a westbound train. Still my heart goes on. It's been so long. Yeah, it's been so long since I've tried. Yeah, it's been so long since I've died, but still my heart goes on. Yeah, it's been so long. Yeah, it's been so long since I felt the pain when I'm moving eastbound on a westbound train. Still my heart goes on. It's been so long. It's been so long. It's been so long.
This podcast was recorded at Red Rum Skates. Mixed by me, Jer. Music provided by Breakacre. We appreciate all our listeners and our guests. Please stay tuned till the next one. Have a great one. Bye.